This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new PennyWise podcast from Lee Enterprises. I'm your host, Teri Barr. We have a kind of tough topic, but I'm going to start out by asking all of you listening a question. Have you been thinking more about life insurance during the past couple of years? Okay, now you see where we're headed. This is a tough topic. It's important, but my guest is going to lay this all out for us, and we're going to have a little informative fun along the way too. Joining me today, I am thrilled to welcome in, we have Michelle Megna. Now, Michelle is an insurance analyst with Forbes Advisor. Michelle, this is great to have you here on such an important topic. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. It's my pleasure to be here.
Why do you think more people may have life insurance front of mind now compared to, say, years past?
Well, obviously, with COVID, I think it really brought to people's mind the necessity for being prepared when the unexpected happens. You know, COVID really proved that unforeseeable events really can unfold in a huge way.
Yeah.
On a large scale. And the result of that is, I think people started to kind of face their mortality and realize that it would be best to be prepared, you know, should a worst case scenario happen.
I think you're right on. And I know when we talk about life insurance, the importance of it is to protect your family. Is that right? I mean, how do you best describe what a product of life insurance does for someone?
That's exactly right. What you're doing is basically safeguarding your family's financial future when you have a life insurance policy in place.
That's
You know, it
awesome.
will help. Yeah,
Yeah.
it will help replace income.
Yeah.
After you've passed away. It can help pay off debts such as mortgages. It can help pay for college tuitions, um, pay off credit card debts. So those really, you know, big ticket items that every household faces, it can be, you know, less worrisome if the primary wage earner is no longer bringing in that income. So life insurance can really be the safety net for your family after you're gone in that way.
Safety net. That is the word. How do people know if, well, I don't know if there is such a thing as not enough life insurance, but how can people ask themselves why they need life insurance? What should they talk about with each other?
Well, you want to really assess what would happen um, if you were no longer getting that income to do those things, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
for example, pay the mortgage, pay the credit card bills, pay the car loans, kids' college tuition. Um, you know, it's kind of surprising how many folks don't really have a big savings or assets that they can rely
Mm.
on. So when you're looking at like, okay, why would I need life insurance? You want to address all of these debts that you would have, obligations you would have, um, and you know that would give you a handle of, you know, how much do I need
Yeah.
to get.
Okay. Is there such a thing as having too much? Or do you think on the flip side of that, do people often, if they get life insurance as part of a package at their job, do they think that's enough?
Uh, Regretfully, many people do think the life insurance they get through their job is adequate, and typically it's woefully insufficient because the payout is very low. It could be as low as $25,000. It may be a year's salary, but that's not really going to get you through
Right.
the decades. It won't get your, you know, family through the decades of life that they'll be facing. That's not really going to cover it.
Okay.
So you really want to buy an individual plan to supplement that, which you can get in much larger amounts. And, the importance, as I said, would be underscored by the fact that LIMRA, which is an industry-funded research group, actually asked folks
Yeah.
how long would it take for their family to face financial hardship
Oh boy.
if the primary wage earner were to die prematurely.
Yeah.
Um, and so 44%, which is almost half of households, said they would face financial hardship within 6 months
Ooh.
if the primary breadwinner were no longer around. I believe it was close to 30% said it would be just 1 month.
One
Um,
month.
yes. And then there was also a recent analysis by the Federal Reserve um, where they found that 36% of Americans were unable to cover a $400 household emergency
Oh,
in cash. So that underscores the importance of having the life insurance policy in place, um, after you're gone, again, for that safety net. Um, so, clearly, a plan through your job that's going to pay out
mm-mm.
$25,000. That may seem like a ton of money, but it's really going to just get you through a few months of bills, if that.
Okay.
So you want to supplement with your own individual plan.
Wow, there's the reality of the situation broken right down for everybody. So when you hear that, and we don't want anyone to panic, obviously, because you have this opportunity to take a look at buying life insurance. What do you suggest? What should people be thinking about as they kind of dive into this?
Well, typically, the sooner you get it, the better.
Of
So
course.
you're going to pay less um, if you are younger and healthier. So what does that mean? Well, younger is, like, okay, 20 would be great, right? But even 30 is a great age because you're going to
Yeah.
pay less than you would at 40. So for example, uh, a 20-year term policy for $500,000, which is the kind of a common flavor of life insurance.
Okay.
Um, if you were to buy that at age 30, it would be around $300, and again, this is an average amount based on a healthy individual.
And that's for a
What you would
year.
what you would pay would be, based on your own medical history and other
Okay.
factors. But if you were to wait from 30 to 40 to buy that same policy,
Yeah.
you could see up to a 36% increase
Ooh.
in what you pay. So when you're thinking of life insurance, the best thing is not to procrastinate because you're going to pay much less the earlier you buy it, compared to when you're older. Having said that, it's still relatively affordable. Uh,
Yes.
there's been studies that have shown that something like, I think half of adults surveyed overestimate the price of life insurance by more than 3 times the actual cost.
I can see that. And I've probably done that myself. And that's why I think this topic is so interesting, but we really don't talk about it enough. How often, once you get it, should you take a look at your policy to maybe do updates? Is that something people should actually do? Or once you buy it, are you good?
Pretty much the latter. Once you buy it, you're locked in. For the most part. So for term insurance, especially, once you get a policy and it's in place, it's in place. You will get your beneficiaries will get the payout when you pass away. And if you, for example, were to come down with a medical condition afterward, that won't affect your rate. So in that regard, it's, kind of a done deal.
Okay.
There are other types of life insurance that are more complicated, permanent life insurance, where some of them provide the opportunity for a cash value component,
Ah,
and you have options for investments. And, so for those, you might want to keep an eye on them.
right.
uh, but for the average, term life insurance, which is typically the cheapest type of life insurance to get. It really is, the sooner you buy it, the better. You'll pay, the lowest rates if you do so. And then you're pretty much able to take that off of your to-do list.
How does, since we kind of started the conversation with COVID-19 and knowing insurance, life insurance in particular, has been selling more in the last couple of years, what if a person has had it? How does that impact their life insurance if they're buying it right now after they've had COVID-19? Is that something people need to worry about?
Thankfully, no. There's a lot of things with COVID that stress people out and worry them, but fortunately with life insurance, it's really not one of them. For the most part, in general, with if you had COVID or if you had it or if you're worried about getting it, it's the application process and and the cost will overall be the same for life insurance if you have COVID or not.
Okay.
Yeah, there may be, if you've had a case that exasperated, some conditions or you had resulting, long-term illnesses afterward, then you may pay a little bit, more for coverage. But typically the application process would be the same. And the cost would be, as I said, unless you have some resulting, medical conditions that were
Right.
long term.
And that kind of applies to anybody, right? Those underlying conditions. So there you
Right.
go. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And you are right. Sales have been up since the pandemic. As we said, I think everybody's, mortality and getting their financial house in order really came front of mind.
Right.
And I believe new premiums increased by 18% last year, which is the highest it's been in 25 years.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it is, a topic that people are, I think, finally getting around to really addressing. And one of the consequences of COVID in terms of life insurance is that the life insurance companies had to move very fast during the pandemic to better facilitate online sales.
Yes. Everything went online. Yeah.
Right. And so that, why is that important? So a typical life insurance exam usually involves having, a visiting nurse come to your house and they do a few, swabs and this and that. They
Right.
do a medical exam, and that is part of the application process. And it slows things down. That has to happen.
Mhm.
People don't love being home for that, doing it, and it takes weeks after that. Um, so the life insurance industry was trying to address this before the pandemic by um, shifting online and offering accelerated life insurance shopping where
Hmm.
you would not need the medical exam, and they use
Oh,
other data to kind of ascertain what they would through a medical exam. So the pandemic really fueled that to go much quicker, and so consumers can benefit from that because now it's not as rare to be able to buy life insurance online without a medical exam and have it be comparable to a standard plan. um, and so I think we're going to keep seeing that. I don't
oh,
think,
wow.
that was an emerging trend. And then the pandemic really, boosted it, kind of powered it up. And, I think that's going to continue. And then, of course, that would be great for consumers because it takes away that obstacle. If you've been thinking, oh, I want to get life insurance, I should get life insurance, but you don't. Now, if you can do it online, it's going to be so much easier than having to, call, make an appointment,
Yeah.
and have the medical exam done.
So that sounds like a pretty big deal and very helpful to consumers, which is nice to see.
Yes, well, absolutely, and especially, like I would give the industry a blue ribbon for that because it, it's like the saying, turning the tanker around in the water. It takes a long time.
Oh,
And so that's how the insurance industry can tend to be. So it actually passes for very exciting news in the life insurance world.
excellent. What did we miss, Michelle? What would you say is the bottom line for people who are listening? What do they need to think about?
Uh, I would say, uh, definitely stop putting off getting life insurance.
Yeah.
Now is the time. The sooner the better, because you will pay less. It's not as expensive as you may think. For example, everybody has to have car insurance to drive
Ah,
legally in nearly all states. The average rate for that is, over $1,000 for the
mhm.
average driver. And so you can get a life insurance policy for much, much less than that. And the time is now, because you don't even have to have a nurse, come to your house.
Right.
You can do it online. So the sooner the better. Um, and don't think it's going to make a huge dent in the budget. And that way you have the peace of mind that, again, you have that financial safety net.
Mm.
Um, in the worst case scenario.
Thank you. This has been fascinating, and what a great way to learn about insurance and up to the date information too. So, Michelle, thank you so much for everything you've talked with us
Oh,
about today.
gosh, you're so very welcome.
Oh, very good. We'll have to check in down the road and see if there's been any changes and what's going on in the life insurance world. But I'm so glad that we did a deep dive into this today. And everybody, again, this is Michelle Megna. She's an insurance analyst with Forbes Advisor. And again, so grateful to have you here again. Uh,
Thanks for having me, Teri.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us for today's PennyWise podcast. If you want to listen to any other topics about saving money, investing money, and of course, insurance, we have all of these wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. We'll see you again next week. Thanks again. I'm Teri Barr from Lee Enterprises.